Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it. Just
Uh,
aloud.
I don't like reading. It says what? Okay, so this is kind of actually what we were just talking about. It says, "What are your thoughts on younger or what are your thoughts on guys younger than you?" To me, it's not that big of a deal because my mom is 4 years younger than my dad. I feel like the guy being older thing is just something that was installed a long time ago, but I'm asking because of a maturity difference. So she's asking like, "What are your thoughts on dating a younger guy?"
Do you know what I think this actually boils down to?
What?
And I'm going to contradict this, in a month, but I think it's less about like whether or not age-wise they're younger or older than you. And I think it could have more to do with if they're the youngest or oldest child in their family. Like if a guy is 6 months younger than you or 4 years younger than you, but he's the oldest child, I think he can have, I think that can mature him like 2 years if you're the youngest child and have so many youngest child syndrome traits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's definitely situational. Like my best friend's dating a guy 2 years younger than her, and he is God's gift to earth. He treats her so well, and he's so mature. I have a rule for myself: I won't date more than a year younger than me. But that's only because I knew how I was when I was younger, and like I never want to take life experiences away from people, and I think that like you should use your lower 20s to like do everything you want to do before you get in a relationship. And also too like I also know how I was a few years ago and like I just wanted to fuck around. So it's like I just want these guys to fuck around and then when they're ready, when they're older and in their 30s, then be like, "Okay, now I'm ready to like fully give myself to one person and settle down."
Yeah. And I think you can tell. There are some guys you meet and you're like, oh, you got to get this out of your system. You've got a wild side. And there's some that you meet that are like, I really want a relationship. I want to like love somebody. And that's the guy that's going to like love that one person for the rest of their life and has zero interest. Like, I think that there are girls and guys that are just wired differently like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's some cases where somebody like this mom is 4 years older than the husband. And it's like, that probably worked out. Like you said, it's so situational that there are those certain guys where it's like they're 28 and all their friends are married with kids and they want that. Or there's those that are like they need to be 35 still being so wild and they never got it out of their system.
Yeah, and I think too what you just said about being like the oldest kid, that's like when maturity comes cuz I feel like if a guy, like my ex-boyfriend of 5 years, he had four sisters. He was so mature and like wanted to settle down because all of his sisters were married with kids. So like that's like what he knew and what he wanted. But I mean, we were 23.
And he didn't want it. He doesn't they don't ever want a wild side.
No, and he didn't. He like had that in high school and he's like, "I'm done. Like I drank all the time. I fucked around." He's like, "I just want to be in a relationship now."
I thought about that a lot this weekend after meeting people. It's like you can tell. So you're like, oh, fuck boy phase. Oh, like not actually looking for like, and it's so interesting because most of the time in the first hour or two of sitting with somebody, you're like, I kind of have a pulse on that. Not in a bad way, in a good way.
Yeah, and like since I was in a relationship until I was 24, I had my like fuck around time period from like 20 because of COVID, like honestly like 26 and 27, and now I'm like I'm done with it. Like I'm over it. I don't want to have do that anymore. So now I'm like 28 and I'm wanting a relationship.
Yeah, no, exactly. I will say this. What do you think about this though? A year or two younger, I'll say four. So the example in this is 4 years. It would take me, I mean, you would have to show your cards there for me to date 4 years younger.
I would never. Also too just being a girl and like I don't like I would maybe want kids when I'm like 35 and they might be like at 31 I don't want kids yet. Like you have to think
Right.
like at your biological clock.
Yeah, and they'd have to be like, I'm my here in my career, like they'd have to really show that they were very mature for their age.
No, like I could never date someone. I couldn't. I literally couldn't.
I'd have to be like time and time again. Oh, perfect. Okay, wow. Like it'd have to be so hard to walk away from. You know what I mean? It'd have to be like so situationally perfect and compatible.
Like, can you imagine me dating a 24-year-old?
No, no.
Ew.
I can't imagine though a 35-year-old dating a 31-year-old.
Yes. Or a 40-year-old dating a 36-year-old.
all day. But
Yeah.
if it starts with a 2 and we're going to go 4 years apart, because I think it's 2 because we both would be saying this without actually have arriving to this part in our life. But in your 20s, they're every year so drastically different that to go 4 years apart feels like going 20 years apart.
Yeah.
But I would assume in your 30s and 40s, maybe that blends together a bit more, but I don't know.
Yeah.